Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Jasodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribhajacharya Asta Tulsi Sri Mata's Divine Grace of Hari Charanarvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Skambhudi Founder Charges Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Buddha Premanande Hari Hari Om. All glories to the Summum Devotees. All glories to the Summum Devotees. All glories to the Summum Devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Padastagudare Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastachari Satarini Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam Third canto, chapter 12, entitled Creation of the Kumaras and Others. Today's text is 32. Tasmai namo bhagavate Tasmai namo bhagavate Ya idang svena rochisha Ya idam svena rochisha Atmastang vyanjayang asa Atmastang vyanjayang asa Sadharmam patumarhati Sadharmam patumarhati Tasmai namo bhagavate Ya idang sena rochisha Atmastang vyanjayang asa Sadharmang patumarhati Tasmai namo bhagavate Yaidam sena ruchisha Atmastang vyanjayang asa sadharamam patung arhati. Tasmai namo bhagavate. Ladies? Tasmai namo bhagavate. Rotisha. Sammanati. Tasmai namo bhagavate. Yaidam sena sotisa. Nastam jayangasa. Sadharamam patumarhati. Tasmai, unto him. Namaha, obeisances. Bhagavate, unto the personality of Godhead. Ya, who? Idam, this. Svena, by his own. Rochisha, effulgence. Atmastang, situated in himself. Vyanjayam, asa, has manifested. Saha, he. Dharamam, religion. Patum, for protection. Arhati, may kindly do so. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, who by his own effulgence, while situated in himself, has manifested this cosmos. May he also protect religion for all goodness. Please repeat. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, who by his own effulgence, while situated in himself, has manifested this cosmos. May he also protect religion for all goodness. Purport. Lust for sexual intercourse is so strong that it appears herein that Brahma could not be dissuaded from his determination, in spite of the appeal made by his great sons like Marichi. Therefore the great sons began to pray to the Supreme Lord for the good sense of Brahma. It is only by the grace of the Supreme Lord that one can be protected from the allurement of lusty material desires. The Lord gives protection to devotees who are always engaged in his transcendental loving service, and by his causeless mercy, he forgives the accidental fall of a devotee. Therefore, sages like Marichi prayed for the mercy of the Lord, and their prayer was fruitful. Om Ajnanitimidandasya Gnanjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Mukam Guru Divachalam Pangam Langayate Girimet Kiptamande Sigrim Dinatanam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram. So, as we can understand from a little bit from this description thus far, the sons of Brahma were very merciful and compassionate to offer advice to their father, understanding that it's by the mercy of the Lord that anything can be achieved. And it's not that praying to the Lord is not fruitful. We can be sure that if we offer heartfelt prayers to the Lord, that the Lord will hear and answer such prayers. And it's interesting that this experience here with the temporary confusion, you could say, of Lord Brahma and the merciful advice given by his sons is something that's it's a reoccurring theme in the Bhagavatam. Just like also Narada Muni, when he was speaking to Prachina Baharshat, he relayed to him the same instruction, that first he described to him the state of the material world and how the living entity, when he comes into it, he wants to enjoy it. Just as here also Brahma, he's having some challenge here, that Narada Muni also instructed Barhishat, and also Prahlad instructs his classmates. Again, the intent is to show mercy or give good instruction. And again, later on in the Bhagavatam, the Avanti Brahman, when he gives his Bhikshu Gita, the song of the Avanti Brahmana, he gives the same advice, describing how the living being becomes entangled in the material sphere and loses sight of what's most important. And again, even Lord Rishabh, he also does the same thing, isn't it? Throughout the whole Bhagavatam, it seems to be the theme, that how do we avoid the pitfalls of material life, right? Nayam deo bhajam niloke kashtan kaman arhate vidbujam ye. He tells his sons, Lord Rishabh, he's speaking to his sons, and he explains to them that when one is so fortunate, because it's a gift, certainly. If one has been awarded this human form, it's a gift. It's not something that that one should take lightly. But having been awarded this human form, because again, there are countless living entities in the universe, and there's many millions of forms that one can take. But if one is so fortunate to have gotten this human form of life, and simply wastes it on sense gratification, which is available there for the lower species, the hogs and the dogs. They can enjoy themselves in so many different ways, particularly the sexual intercourse, which is being highlighted here in this particular pastime. That instead of working like for that goal, one should instead endeavor for the attain the divine position of devotional service, which is what the sons of Brahma are now expressing to Lord Brahma, their father, just as Prahlad was also instructing his classmates, which Narada was also explaining to Barhishat, that Rishabh is describing to his sons. And instead of becoming entangled, which again is just the nature of material life, as soon as one comes in contact with this material energy, and one is not careful, it's very easy to become entangled. Nunam pramata kurate vikarma. He goes on further to describe. Rishabh tells his son that when a person considers sense gratification to be the aim of life, not knowing that due to his past misdeeds he's received this material body, because it is a result of something that we've done in the past to earn this material form. It's not a great thing to be proud of. We have this human form of life which is full of so many miserable situations and experiences. So, not knowing that, because of my past misdeeds, I have to accept this miserable situation. Although I shouldn't have, it's not normal. We shouldn't have taken on this material form, because originally we're all spiritual beings. We're meant to be in the spiritual world, engaged in association and service with the Supreme Lord. Instead, we've gotten this situation, and now we're hence what do we do with it? And having received it, one shouldn't, and we shouldn't do anything to, again, complicate the situation, and exacerbate that material condition. The sadhu mane yata atmanoyam. He says that it's not befitting an intelligent person, just as here, the sons of Brahma, they're trying to express to their father that this is not correct. What you're doing here is not befitting a person of your position and being the controller of the material the material world. It's not a good thing, for sure. And instead, one should, as Prabhupada points out here, one should be praying for the mercy of the Lord. One should be praying to be engaged in devotional service. Otherwise, as long as that mind, and this is the whole interesting experience, and we heard it the last couple of days, and we'll hear it in the coming verses, that this is all a mental condition that Lord Brahma was experiencing. Right? Yavat kriyastavadado, what is it? Yavat kriyastavadidam mano vai. Rishabh also points out that as long as the mind is impure and the consciousness becomes unclear. As soon as the mind is infected by some material desire, the consciousness becomes unclear. And we all have a practical experience of that. When the mind is disturbed, then it's hard to focus one's consciousness on what you have to do. So the mind, the consciousness is unclear. And as long as one is absorbed in material activity, because if the mind is impure, the consciousness is absorbed in so many other things. It's not absorbed in Krishna Bhakti. Instead, it's absorbed in so many other things. So the mind the consciousness is focused on fruitive activity. And because of that, one again has to accept a material body. So the Avanti Brahmana was giving this same advice in his beautiful song, in which he describes that it's not the demigods, it's not his own body, it's not the planets, it's not one's work, it's not even the time factor, which is causing the miseries of the dualities of material life. But instead, it's the mind. He makes this point over and over. It's quite a beautiful description. And the Lord himself, at the end of that song given by the Avanti Brahmana, explains that if one hears and recites this beautiful song, which gives knowledge of the absolute truth, one will never be overwhelmed by the dualities of happiness and distress. He makes this point over and over that it's because of the mind. And we know that, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is exclaiming that Chanchalam himana Krishna pramati balavadridham, that Krishna, this mind is such a challenging experience, such a difficult thing to deal with. But Krishna explains to him, abhyasa yoga yuktena, right? That by constant practice and detachment. So that constant practice has to be there, that constant listening, that constant association, just as here, Brahma is so fortunate as to have the good instruction given to him by his sons. And that instruction is to be again engaged in devotional service, right? Because the Lord gives protection to his devotees who are always engaged in his transcendental loving service. So, as Krishna says again in Bhagavad Gita, apicha jadara charo bhajanti mamananya bhak, that if one is engaged in service, that's the critical point. If one is engaged in devotional service, despite having gone through such a fall down or a struggle in one's devotional life, despite all of that, if one is engaged sincerely in devotional service, then he should be considered properly situated, because he's situated in transcendence. So it's important most important, that whatever challenges one may have to go through, if one simply remembers that the mercy of the Lord is there, and one has to pray for it very sincerely. Tate nukankam susamikshamano bhajanti. What is that? Tate nukampam susamikshamana bunjatma evatma krite vipakam. That one has to be sincere and earnestly waiting for the mercy of the Lord, all the while suffering the reactions of whatever one may have committed and had to struggle through. If one engages that heart, words, and body, and is always sincerely engaged, then that person is eligible for the mercy of the Lord, as will be revealed here in the latter, in upcoming verses here, that because of the good association and sincerity, Lord Brahma was able to recognize his mistake, as is the case for anyone engaged in devotional service, that if there's some challenge along the way, and challenges are certainly there, they have to come. We don't, we're not so foolish as to think that we aren't going to have challenges, but when those challenges come, if one simply takes shelter of the personality of Godhead, takes shelter of the good instruction given by the saintly persons, then there's without a doubt one will be successful in overcoming the challenges that are there in this material world. Prahlad was also telling his classmates that same point. Matirna Krishna Parataksato va, right? Mito Vibhadyeta Griha Brattanam. He tells them that the living entities who are uncontrolled in their senses and who may have an addiction to this material energy, they're only progressing to hellish conditions. So how to get free from that, and that is by controlling the mind and controlling the senses. And that means, again, hearing from the right persons. Today is also the disappearance day of Ishvara Puri. And I wanted to read a couple little things about his life, which are very exemplary for us. And if there are no questions or comments, I'll just read a little bit here, just a few minutes, just to give us a little bit of nectar about Ishvara Puri. Ishvara Puri was born in the town of Kumarhata on the full moon day of the month of Jeshta, in a family of Brahmins hailing from Rarta. Kumarhata is in the it's in a district 2 miles from the Halasahar train station. The town is also important for Gaudiya Vaishnavas because Srivas Pandit and his brothers moved here after Mahaprabhu took sannyas because they were unable to tolerate all the painful reminders of him in Navadvip. The Ishwarapuri is a sannyasi name, and though his name prior to taking sannyas is unknown, we do know that his father's name was Shyama Acharya. Ishwarapuri took initiation from Madhavendra Puri, the embodiment of nectarian devotional love. Madhavendra Puri was pleased with Ishwarapuri's guileless, sincere, and affectionate service, and thus showered him with blessings, so that he too became immersed in the ocean of love of Krishna. If a disciple can satisfy his spiritual master, then he will be fortunate and attain all auspiciousness and fulfillment of all his desires. On the other hand, if the guru is unhappy with a disciple, then he will only know inauspiciousness. These teachings have been highlighted in the exemplary life of Madhavendra Puri. Ramachandra Puri was another of Madhavendra Puri's initiated disciples, but because of his arrogance, he was bereft of his guru's grace. Krishnadas Kaviraj has described the incident with great beauty in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Mahaprabhu takes initiation from Ishwarapuri. Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and has no need of any teacher. Even so, he wishes to teach the world that it is absolutely necessary to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. For this reason, he played the role of a disciple by taking initiation from Ishwarapuri when he met him in Gaya. This in itself shows beyond a doubt Ishwarapuri's greatness and importance. Then the Lord went to Gaya, where he met Ishwarapuri after taking initiation from him. He started to display these signs of love of God, and when he returned to his homeland, he began to engage in the pastimes of divine love. When they met, Mahaprabhu and Ishwarapuri were overcome by the ecstasy of love and drenched each other in tears of prema that fell from their eyes. The Lord said, "My pilgrimage to Gaya is successful, for today I have seen your lotus feet." When one makes the pinda offering to the ancestors in a holy place, then that ancestor is delivered. But simply by seeing you, 10 million ancestors are delivered from all forms of bondage in a single moment. Therefore, no place is your equal. No holy place is your equal. And you are the primary source of auspiciousness for even the holy places. Please lift me up from the ocean of material suffering. I offer my body up to your service. The only gift I ask of you is that you give me the nectar of Krishna's lotus feet to drink. Mahaprabhu was acting the role of an ordinary mortal. A pilgrim had come to Gaya to offer the Shraddha oblations to his deceased father. On the day that he performed these rituals, he returned to his room and began to cook. When Ishwarapuri came and placed his lotus feet in Mahaprabhu's room, Mahaprabhu personally served him the rice and vegetables that he himself had cooked with great satisfaction. In so doing, Mahaprabhu demonstrated how perfectly one should serve the Guru. Ishwarapuri had met Mahaprabhu in Navadvip even prior to his giving him 10-syllable mantra in Gaya. He also met with Advaitacharya, who had similarly played the role of Madhavendra Puri's disciple. Vrindavan Das Thakur has described this meeting in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Once Ishwarapuri passed through Navadvip when Nimai was still engaged in his pastimes as a student. He stayed there for a few months in the house of Gopinathacharya as his guest. One day he saw Nimai and was most impressed and attracted by his bodily beauty. Nimai invited Ishwara Puri to his house to eat and had his mother Sachi cook and serve him Krishna Prasad. Then he and Ishwara Puri began talking about Krishna. Ishwara Puri also met Gadadhar Pandit and was pleased when he saw the depth of his renunciation. He started to affectionately give him lessons from Sri Krishna Lilamrita, a book of his own composition. Nimai would also come daily to Gopinathacharya's house to visit Ishwara Puri while he was teaching Gadadhar and offer him his obeisances. One day Ishwara Puripad asked Nimai to correct any mistakes that were in his book. Nimai answered, "Anyone who finds any fault with a devotee's description of Krishna is a sinner. If a devotee writes a poem, no matter how poorly he does it, it will certainly contain his love for Krishna. A fool says Vishnaya, Vishnaya, while a scholar knows the correction is Vaishnave. But Krishna accepts the sentiment in either case. If anyone sees a fault in this, the fault is his, for Krishna is pleased with anything the pure devotee says. You too describe the Lord with words of love, so what arrogant person would dare criticize anything you have written?" The same incident is described in the Brihad Ratnakara in the following way. "Look here, this is the house of Gopinathacharya, where Vishwambar would visit from time to time. Ishwara Puri came here for a while and composed his book, Sri Krishna Lilamrita. He had great affection for Gadadhar Pandit, and when he saw the symptoms of love for Krishna to him, he taught him this book. When Nityananda Prabhu was traveling in the west of India, he incidentally met Madhavendra Puri there. When the two met, they fainted. Nityananda was overcome by love and started to describe Madhavendra Puri's glories, while Madhavendra Puri himself embraced Nityananda and wet him with his tears. Ishwara Puripad understood that Nityananda was extremely dear to his spiritual master, and so, like his guru's other disciples, told him in great affection and felt a deep love for him. All glories to Madhava Puri, the ocean of love of Krishna. He was the first shoot of the desired tree of devotion. That first shoot was nourished and grew in the form of Ishwara Puri, and from him the thick trunk of Chaitanya Leela took shape." Now these again are quotations from Bhakti Ratnakara, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Chaitanya Bhagavat. Before he left this world, Ishwara Puri sent two of his disciples, Kashishwar and Govinda, to serve Mahaprabhu. Even though they were his godbrothers, Mahaprabhu still obeyed the order of his spiritual master and accepted them as his servants. Sri Ishwara Puripad Ki Jai. Any other questions or comments? Yes, one last question.
In a purport, Srila Prabhupada mentioned that, if you make accidental, actually in one conversation, Srila Prabhupada said that if you make accidental fall down, then it's forgiven. And I think Bhagavad Gita also. Anyway, but after that, you can say is not be forgiven. Is that means then that means is not anymore accidental?
That's the
That
point.
means you're
That's not the
thinking
that-
about.
Yeah.
So Prabhupada also said that if you very strictly follow four regulative principle and never fall down and chant 16 rounds, then in one lifetime you can go home back to Godhead. But if you do these things, in a sense, is not accidental. So you don't. Question is, you don't have chance to go to spiritual world in one lifetime.
No, the chance is always there. You just may have to wait a little bit longer. It may take a little bit longer. No, Krishna is always willing to give his mercy, provided that we're sincere in executing our service. And if there's a difficulty and we stumble along the way, it's not that you can't pick yourself up, but you have to pick yourself up and engage sincerely, right? You have to again engage in devotional service sincerely, and then you're again rightly situated. So yeah, we may struggle and there may be some bumps along the road, but the point is not to stay in that condition and repeat it. Just pick yourself up and Krishna will help. Okay? Srila Prabhupada ki jai.